Hello everybody, welcome to the Document Ninja. Today we are going to look at a problem I've heard from a few people when they are using a DocuWare workflow. This one's specific to invoice processing, but these concepts will work in pretty much any workflow. So the question is, where did my invoice go? So, a DocuWare workflow is a very powerful tool and it can do a lot of things and it's great. But in our real world environments, sometimes a process doesn't go exactly as we planned or expected. And we have to kind of track something down, figure out where'd that document go. So today we're going to learn how to easily resolve some of those issues. And but in my mind here, finding this invoice in this case is going to be as easy as 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4. So we're going to look at finding the document if it maybe got caught somewhere in the capture process that's kind of on its way into DocuWare. 2, and probably the one that'll work every time, is if it is lost in the workflow, or not lost really, but if I'm not sure where it is in the workflow, using the monitor tasks view will generally solve that problem. So we're going to show you how to do that. Then maybe if that doesn't work, or if we don't have access to that view, we're going to look at searching for the document itself and then kind of tracking it down that way, either from some visual clues or the number 4 is if we have to check the actual workflow history of the document, which is a little more complex, but still not too bad. So let's go dive in and take a look. We'll see a live example, and we're even going to show you how to eliminate the dreaded loop, as I call it. Here we are logged into our DocuWare system, and actually we're logged into the same system several times as a few different users. We'll go ahead and label this one. I see here, we'll make sure we know this is Peggy. So we've got Peggy Jenkins, we've got our Document Ninja, we've got Peter Sanders, and Fred Winter. So just to keep that in mind, as the topic is, where is my invoice? So as we're maybe storing invoices and having them go through a workflow, sometimes we kind of lose track of it and aren't sure where it went. So we're going to go through a couple scenarios that will help us track those down and be able to confidently find where it is. So the first step in your process is going to be storing the documents from the document tray. And actually just before that is what we call capture, or how that document gets into the document tray. And that's often from a scanner or from a copier or a folder import, or maybe from an email import, either manually or automatically. So in general, when those solutions are employed, it either works or it doesn't. So if we're doing a folder import, for instance, it's either going to be in the folder or it'll be in the tray. There's not really much room for in between from a technical perspective. Same thing from the email. If we click the button and it executes and it's no longer in the email, it's going to be in the tray. However, occasionally there are some hiccups there, not very often. But one thing to look out for is if I'm like Peggy Jenkins here and have multiple document trays. So let's just go ahead and open a second one. Sometimes we open it and don't realize we're on a different tab, and all we need to do is click over there. But more often, what could happen is, especially with a folder import or something like that, if there is any kind of error that happens, that document will go to your default document tray. What is my default document tray? Notice the little star here. So the one that is filled in is Peggy's default document tray. So if I'm using my local scanner and something happens a little goofy in the scan process and DocuWare says, gosh, I don't know what kind of document this is, or maybe I had the scanner setting wrong, it will go to what is called the default tray or inbox. In this case, you can see DocuWare kind of calls it an inbox. So a best practice would be if I'm Peggy Jenkins and I'm in charge of invoice processing and 90% of the time I want the documents to go there, let's make that my default tray or my inbox. That way, if there is an error, the document will end up in the same place that it normally would. The other thing to check is sometimes we might have trays that are hidden. So if you go next to your name and click on the little caret here, you'll get the profile and settings option. And you see that's where a lot of your settings are here. But we go to document trays. And for instance, here we can see the purchase orders tray I have hidden. I have access rights to it, but I've hidden it probably to keep it out of my way. And therefore I wouldn't see it in my list. So if the document did go into there by mistake, I would never be able to see it unless I turned it on. And now I have visibility into that purchase orders tray. So just as an example, those are some things that could happen. If I need to move it from trays, like if it was in the wrong tray, I simply right click it, move to, and pick the proper tray. So it's a very simple fix if I know where to look. So just if it's not in a tray where it's supposed to be, check multiple trays, check your default tray. Also, often in an accounts payable scenario, I may have 50 or 100 invoices in my tray, and maybe I'm not sure if I have a specific one I'm trying to check. I would probably just store them all and search for it. But if you're looking for it, can't find it, there are a few ways that would help you be able to do that. One is this table view. So this kind of it makes it a list instead of that thumbnail, so I kind of see it top to bottom. Now, granted, the information that I have here may not be helpful. Remember, that document is not indexed yet, so I really don't have much information. That's why I say I would always just store them all and then go see if it's there afterwards. But we'll go ahead and go back to the thumbnail view, or the index card view rather. The one thing to remember though in the tray, the default sort order is always going to be the oldest one on top. The idea is, we want to work on the oldest thing first. So that is the default order. We can, of course, change that with the little up and down arrows, and we can, of course, go back to the default with reset sorting. So just FYI, if I scanned something just now or pulled it in from an email and I have more than 30 or so documents here, I won't be able to see it. It's probably I need to scroll down because it's at the very bottom. So let's go ahead and store our documents now. And we can see we used intelligent indexings and they're all green. So I want to use the light bulb here and just give them a quick visual check as I store them. And for anybody that's not currently using DocuWare, this feature is amazing. It saves a lot of typing. I don't have to mess around. And it puts it right where it needs to go. One thing I do want to point out is, let's say, for example, instead of calling this an invoice in, we called it just an invoice. This document type typically in most workflows is one of what we call a trigger. So it's what tells DocuWare that this document should go into this workflow process, not just be stored quietly in the file cabinet. So if I were to miss invoice in, and that just happens to be in our pre-configured solution, what we call it, reason being differentiating a vendor invoice from a customer invoice. So one's an invoice coming in that we have to pay, one's one that we send out as an invoice out to get paid. So I'm going to intentionally mess this one up and just call it an invoice. And the rest of them we're just going to go ahead and store as per usual. So now my tray is clear. I stored 5 documents. Gosh, I only see 3 tasks. What's up with that? So as I'm looking here, one of the things that sometimes happens is I'm so used to, usually the first step is the assign approver step, right? And I'm so used to going to it, sometimes I don't notice that maybe there's another tab. In our pre-configured solution, as well as many other workflows, each stage in the workflow is actually its own process, so it's going to have its own tab. So as we see this, oh, I stored 5, I only see 3 here. Oh, there is one in this other tab. So if we look, we have one sitting in the validation tab. Why is that? Let's take a look. It's a potential duplicate. Why is it a potential duplicate? It's a phone bill, and we use the account number as the invoice number. So DocuWare is going to flag that as a duplicate because we had a similar one last month. How do I know we had a similar one last month? If I click on my toolbar here, I can check the duplicate link, and it will show me that duplicate document. Pretty handy. Little aside there, I know that's not a where's my invoice, but just to give you that little tip, this shows me the document that DocuWare thinks it's a duplicate. Oh, but I see this one was rejected from the last time, so we actually do need to pay this one. This is a re-invoice. So I'm going to tell it to go ahead and proceed that it is not in fact a duplicate. So when this refreshes, now we'll see 4 invoices in our assign approver step, which is better, but we should have seen 5. Now, what if I need to look for that 5th one? So one way to search and see, like, do we at least have the document, is just to use the file cabinet search. And in this case, we're going to use the detailed search. And a couple things we could do. One, we know it was rapid transport that we're missing. So I can type R, do a search, look for everything from rapid transport, and aha, I see it. And it's very obvious what the culprit is, right? This is labeled as an invoice, not an invoice in. Also, if I don't know really what I'm looking for, maybe I messed up the indexing on the name. What you would do in that case is just do a search with nothing in the fields. So sometimes people are scared to do that. Don't be scared. Go ahead and click search. It'll show you everything that's currently in the file cabinet. And like we mentioned earlier, opposite of the tray, the newest one's on top. So if it was recent, we know it'll be in the first few documents, and I can pretty quickly ascertain what's going on. So that is just one quick way to use the search to look in the file cabinet, because regardless of where that document is in a workflow, it will always be in the file cabinet. So we can always find it and perhaps see what happened. So let's go ahead and look at our tasks. We see we have 4 of them, and usually we're pretty okay at this juncture. We're going to go ahead and store this one. And another little tip here, can't help but throw in these tips, for when we're GL coding the document, one, click the little guy here, that makes our table way bigger, so it's way easier to see. If we don't use this approver, like for instance we're using requester approver, go ahead and squish that way down. If I'm not using it, let's make it easier to use the things I am using. And once you make this move, if you log out properly and log back in, it will stay like this forever. So, or at least till you change it again. Maybe not forever. But if I want to pick a GL code, for instance, one of the problems we have with GL codes is usually they're a number and a description. Well, not everybody's great at remembering that, inventory starts with 1300. Because in this case, I would have to start typing the number first before it would filter down. If I know this Robinson's Refuge that we're looking at, I know it's a travel expense, but I don't remember the number. Well, I can just use my asterisk, which is a wildcard, and start typing travel. Boom, there it is. Little pro tip, tuck that one away. So we've gone ahead and coded this and said we want Peter Sanders to approve it. The rest of them will just kind of bust through pretty quickly. And again, Peter Sanders. Give it a little GL code. Just making it up. Don't worry, we're not going to pay these bills to the wrong GL codes. No one's paying anything. It's pretend. Peter Sanders, one more time. We'll make this one a real one. We'll use our asterisks again. Oh, these are computer charges. There we go. Boom. All done. And I am going to apologize for the lag. My recording software seems to be giving us a little bit of a fit. It's not DocuWare, I promise. When we go in here now, we'll code this guy. And, we did kind of notice the amount. That's going to be a hint for later. We went ahead and assigned all of these invoices to our friend Peter Sanders, which is great. He's got 5 invoices now to approve. One of them was already there, but we'll go ahead and blast through these. He's a pretty easygoing guy. He's just going to go ahead and approve everything. That would be a great boss to have, just rubber stamp approval. So now we'll go back to Peggy Jenkins, and we would expect to see multiple documents in this completion step. We'd expect to see 5, in fact, right? He approved 5. I only see 3. Is the invoice lost? Well, what can we do about it? The first thing that I would do, and the thing I would recommend if I want to see this document from a process perspective, is to look under tasks and go to the monitor tasks view. So what that is that gives me an overview of where everything is that is in a workflow. Uh-oh, I don't see anything. What's up with that? Well, unfortunately, Peggy Jenkins does not have monitor task rights. So that means she can't see an overview. That's definitely an oversight, I would say, by her administrator. She should have what we call workflow controller rights. And in a subsequent video, we will show an administrator easily how to add that. It has to be done from Workflow Manager. So generally, that is something an administrator would have to do. But luckily, we also have the Document Ninja that is logged in as well, and I would bet he's going to have monitor task rights because he's a ninja, of course. So he's going to look at monitor tasks, and he sees the completion tasks, and we see some that are in the requester approval process. And the best part is our data here, when we're in monitor task view, includes the activity, just like the regular task view. So we can see why it's here. It says approve over limit. So our organization must be using approval limits, and we exceeded Peter Sanders' approval limit. It also says who it's assigned to. Brilliant. Now I know exactly what's going on. I can even click here and see the document if I want. But this view works great. I can also sort and filter. So, hey, maybe we process a ton of invoices and I have, 100 and I want to narrow that down. I can use this filter tool and say, oh no, show me only the ones assigned to Fred, or show me only the ones from this vendor name. So we can filter within that workflow or task view as well. So great, we found out they are assigned to Fred Winter, and that is fantastic. So let's go ahead and bop on over to Fred, and he's like his subordinate Pete. He just approves everything, even the $1 million, the $1 million U.S. Steel invoice. He'll just approve it. So now we would expect to see more documents in our completion step. I would expect to see 5, in fact, but I only see 4. What's going on? Well, we know we can do monitor tasks, but we're going to look at a couple of the other ways to find out. One is like we did earlier, where we can search in the file cabinet. And, oh, you know what? I know that was US Steel that we're missing. I can find it from a search dialog. I can kind of research the stamps here. I can see, oh, Peter Sanders approved it. I know he doesn't have it. Okay, Fred Winter approved it. I don't know what happened after that. Unfortunately, the stamps cannot tell us what step it is in currently. It'll only tell us what step's been completed, right? Because the stamp goes on as I complete the steps. So we might have to do a little bit more digging. Another way to find any of these documents are in the lists. The pre-configured solution has a great set of lists that shows everything that's currently in a process. So, and it's broken up by time. In the last 2 days, 2 to 5 days, more than 5 days. So we can see, in this case, a list of everything that's currently in a workflow process. So we know it's not done. We see US Steel is not completed. It's still in a process somewhere. Well, where is it? Well, let's cheat and go over to Document Ninja again and look at our Monitor Tasks view. And we can see it's another approve over limit. Oh gosh, it's assigned to me, DocuWare Ninja at this point. I'm going to go ahead and approve it. And then we're going to look at why that was the case. So and I do want to show you one other way to find out where something is. This is a little bit more on the technical side, but let's say, for instance, we want to see that US Steel invoice. So let's go ahead and look that up from the file cabinet like we normally would. And one of the things we can do is use our right mouse click and go to History. So this is, again, a little more on the technical side, but it's going to show us any workflows that happen to this document. So we can see, oh, it went through validation, started and ended, great. The assign approvers start, it had a task. Remember, we assigned it and ended it. The requester approval, it started, it was approved, it had an over limit approval and another over limit approval. So this view is really handy to kind of tell you which workflow it is in. Oh, now it's in completion. It started. I don't see an end, so it's in here somewhere. So that will tell you some information. If you need some more data, you can hit the show automatic activities and it'll show some of the background tasks. But generally, this will give you a real good idea of where it is. Again, we get there just by right-clicking and going to History. And there are 2 tabs. So there's the Workflow History and the Document History, which is appropriate if you have version control running, like document versions is what that'll show you. In this case, we'd only be interested in the Workflow History. So we got all our invoices approved, but US Steel had to go through 3 approval processes. Why was that? So to see that, we want to look in our file cabinet called Personnel, if this is a DocuWare pre-configured solution. This is what drives those approval limits. So when we go and search, again, blank search, show me everything in the cabinet, we can see our users and their associated limits. And just to show you how we got where we got last time is, remember, we assigned it to Peter Sanders, and really the only name that matters here is the DocuWare ID. So it's Peter Sanders. It was over his $1,000 limit, so it went to his manager, Fred Winter. Fred Winter has a limit of $10,000, and it went to DocuWare Ninja. DocuWare Ninja has a $10 million limit, so he was okay. We'll say, as a best practice, someone in accounting, maybe CFO or maybe our system administrator, but someone needs to be in here with a really high limit to be able to push through an invoice. If no one had that limit, it would just keep looping forever and ever, and we do not want the dreaded loop, as they say. So we've got now all of our invoices approved. We found them lots of ways. We went to monitor tasks. We searched in the file cabinet. We looked in a list. We learned how to right-click and see the workflow history. Those things will all be super helpful in tracking down that invoice. Also, understanding your personnel so we know the reasons why it went from one person to another. So now I can happily complete my 5 invoice tasks here and be on my way. On behalf of the Document Ninja, thank you for joining us today. If this content was helpful at all, or if you enjoyed it, some of us enjoy documents, please like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and let us know what you think in the comments. If you have questions, if you happen to be a DocuWare user and have questions of your own, leave those as well. We might be able to make a video to help you. That's actually where any of these previous videos have been live questions from DocuWare users. So please let us know. Also, if you are not a DocuWare user, we will have some general document management tips and tricks as well. And if you think the product's interesting, let us know there as well, and we would be happy to talk to you. Thank you and have a great day. Document Ninja signing off.